We're going to be talking about reimagining pay and reward strategies for the future workforce. Got a lot of hot topics to think through, but when we think about what's happened in the last few decades, nothing happened for decades, and then decades happened in the last 3 years. And who knows what's going to happen over the next 3 years. So that's what we're going to be looking at today. And as I was coming in on the Elizabeth line this morning, picked up the paper, just see, what kind of the people issues coming out just today. Today we've got Johnson Matthey laying off people. We've got an article in here saying UK bankers are not paid enough because we can't recruit from the US. There's a talent shortage there. We've got the cost of living crisis. Roundtree Foundation recently published their wonderful reports on the working poor. And then there's an article in here about a luxury concierge company never been busier. So you kind of the complexities of the environment that we're working in, whether it's laying off people, helping people at the lower end of our companies on living wage or minimum wage, plus also trying to recruit the top talent. We heard about AI this morning, which has been absolutely at the forefront of our thinking all year, and that's going to stay there. So that's what this topic is about. Do we need to rethink our pay and reward strategies for this future workforce, and who are our future workforce? So what we're going to talk about today is who is the future workforce, and how firms are addressing the skill shortages and the anticipated needs of their firms, and whether firms are rethinking compensation and their variable pay, and actually are we using equity shares more or less, and does that matter? And let's talk about agile working as well, because I know we see a lot of that in the paper at the moment, of people coming back to the office, staying at home, a bit of both, working anywhere. We're going to talk about that as well. And then we're going to finish with horizon scanning. Who knew 3 years ago we'd have had a pandemic, a labour shortage, and massive inflation and interest rate rises? But let's scan ahead and think, knowing what we know now, how do we plan ahead for our reward strategies going forward? So I'm delighted to introduce Dan and Yasemin. Dan, would you like to just introduce yourself briefly?
Sure, yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Dan Waller. I look after compensation and benefits for Fiserv. Most people have never heard of Fiserv, but we are a payments fintech. So whenever you use your credit card or debit card, or nowadays your phone, we do everything else behind the scenes.
Thank you. And Yasemin?
Hi, I am the VP Total Rewards for Pixel United, which is a portfolio company of free-to-play mobile games across the world. So we are investing in game studios on game companies together with our parent company, Aristocrat.
So we've got two fabulous, absolutely leading-edge companies. Fiserv at the front end of pay technology, and gaming. I mean, gaming came into its own during the pandemic and then completely reinvented itself going forward. And you've got the challenging now that people have got to go back to work and stop playing the games. But we still want those games to develop. We still want new games. So absolutely leading edge tech companies. I am the chair of the remuneration committee of Nurture Landscapes Group, which is not a tech company. We look after wonderful outdoor spaces. We probably manage some of your outside spaces and your indoor plants and living walls up and down the country, and grit up and down the country. So it's a wonderful outside services company managing wonderful buildings. I'm also chair of the remuneration committee of the RNLI, the lifeboats, and I have just stood down as the chair of the RNLI and chair of the remuneration committee at Roehampton University. So I've got a lot of remuneration experience across a whole range of sectors, having previously qualified and practiced as a lawyer in this area for many years. So I'm going to kind of bring the non-tech side of this to the discussion whilst we look at the leading edge of where tech is taking us and what we can learn from that through our different companies and our different reward strategies and employee needs. So first, Dan, do you want to talk about exactly what does your company do and who is your future workforce?
Yeah, so we're a payments company and a fintech, as I said. We're a Fortune 500 company, a global leader. And I think, being really honest, Fiserv's a a really interesting culture, and if it works for you, you tend to stick around. I've been there 19 years. So if we look at our workforce, we've got a lot of people that have been there a short period of time, and we've got a lot of people that have been there a long period of time. I think that brings some unique challenges. We have to cater to both. But we're doing a lot of investment around early careers to get millennial talent into the business, and trying to think through ways in which we can keep them challenged and entertained and developing their career and skill set in the company.
And are you a fast-growing company, or are you kind of steady as you go, but just need to keep moving forward?
We're incredibly fast-growing, fast-moving. When I first started with the company, I remember looking at people keying in numbers on checks. So most of you are probably too young to remember that, but nowadays, obviously, it's all contactless. So the industry is changing massively. That creates some very interesting challenges for us. I'm sorry, I've forgotten the second half of your question.
Yeah, fast-growing by the sound of it, fast-growing.
Fast-growing, sorry, yes. And we've recently tried to find some evidence or proof points of a company that have grown in the way that we have, because we've just logged our 37th year of double-digit adjusted earnings per share growth, and we couldn't find another one. So
37 years of
37
double-digit growth.
Yeah. So it's we're a big player. We've got 40,000 employees, and that brings plenty of challenges to keep us entertained.
Yeah, and by the sound of it, not all tech. Tech is a key component there, but you've got the whole infrastructure that keeps the organisation moving.
Yeah, tech is a big part of our business, but we also offer a lot of outsourced services to banks and financial institutions. So again, real challenging environment around, like contact centres, for example. So you might be calling to dispute a charge on your credit card. You're not talking to your bank, you're actually talking to Fiserv. So again, lots of challenges there to manage a contact centre workforce, people in their first role in their career.
Yeah, actually, we think we're speaking to somebody. It could be, going forward, a chatbot.
It could be, yeah.
But again, that's the whole thing, isn't it?
Yes.
It's fast-moving. And Yasemin, do you want to talk to us about Pixel and your future workforce?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, mobile games sector went down together with all high tech. So we have been impacted. But looking at the future workforce, actually, we are looking at how we can be more efficient and creative going forward. So our main talent market is high tech, digital, and creative. So, and they are all scarce still, right? Scarce skills now in the market. So we are looking at also different employment models, like non-traditional employment models, like digital nomads, gig economy, contingent workers. Do we pay them via agencies? So up to now, reward function was only responsible for employees, incentivizing employees. But now, in my world, the biggest discussion is, they are actually talent. How we are going to manage them? So basically, our future workforce will be super flexible going forward.
Yeah, yeah. And it's all about kind of attracting the right talent and meeting their needs to kind of join you. And certainly in Nurture Landscapes, we're not a tech company, and our people that go out on sites, they're all employees. We want to manage their training. We're very concerned about health and safety. Quite a number of others in our industry use contractors, where you don't have the same level of client service and quality. So we're very much into employing people and providing the right work environment to them. But we're also tech, so we've got tech platforms so our clients can access when we're on their site, what are we doing. They can request services from us through our tech platform. So we do have tech within the business, but clearly it's not a key drive of the business, but it's there to support the efficiency and client service. So yes, we've got this completely different horticulturist going out on site and tech helping us to move forward efficiently and engage with our clients who are by and large in offices commissioning our services. So we've had this fluctuation in recruitment. We talked a little bit about it. But in terms of redundancies, talent shortages, how is that with you? Have you had to make redundancies, but you need to recruit in other areas where there is talent?
Over the years, I think we've got a little bit of a bad reputation, actually, of doing too much restructuring. But when the pandemic hit, we made a really firm commitment that we weren't going to furlough staff, that we weren't going to do any redundancy or restructure activity. again, we came up with a very clear message, which was we're going to focus on two things, one being the clients and one being our employees. We said we've got the right people in the right roles, and we've got some very long tenured people that we want to support, and we will get through this, and we did. Then coming out of that, then we led into the Great Resignation, and labour market started to open up again. I think the way that we acted through that period really helped us. So attrition didn't bounce back in the way that we thought it would. I think that really helped us. And now, we're looking at our workforce and saying, a lot is changing in the external market. There's a wage inflation, and we've got this group of individuals internally that are very experienced, very knowledgeable, that we want to keep around, and we're trying to find ways to make it a great place to work for them, where they can grow their career internally.
Yeah. So you do that through performance management, but personal development, so it's more engaged than perhaps it was before.
Yeah, I think so. We've worked with our managers a lot to say, ideally you want someone who can hit the ground running, but look at what's happening in the external market, and you're going to have to pay for that. And actually, again, back to my comment about Fiserv being a unique culture where if it works for you, you tend to stick around. Wouldn't it be better to bring someone into the team that knows how to get things done at our company? And that skill set is very, very valuable. So we've kind of labelled it hiring with potential or hiring for potential, taking a leap of faith in somebody and saying they might not actually have all the skills that you need, but they can get things done around here. And with the right level of investment, you will buy their commitment, and they will stick around and grow their career with you.
So have you changed the approach to recruitment then, so that and how have you trained people to do that?
I think if we go back about 5 or 6 years, we probably had a sort of 5% internal fill rate for vacancies. And actually, it was before the pandemic, we said we wanted to tip the scales to go over 50% internal recruitment. And we've done that, which is amazing, really. I think it was maybe a bit of luck, but it was a good position to get to with everything that happened with the pandemic. But yeah, it takes a lot of conversations, a lot of working with managers to get them to take that leap of faith and to realise that it does take their investment to bring out the best in people. But in the long run, it's a much better return on investment.
Yeah, brilliant. And Pixel, have you had redundancies, specific skill shortages? And you've talked about digital nomads, recruiting them. So do you want to talk about, have you had redundancies?
Yeah.
How do you target the skill shortage?
So, as every game company during pandemic, we have grown really aggressively. And then after the pandemic, market is going down. We are still stable financially. We are beating the market. However, to be able to sustain our performance, business performance, we need to think differently. So basically, right now, what we are doing is like reorganization, looking at our operating model, how we manage our portfolio, and also, these new skills, how we are going to position them within our portfolio, how we are going to manage it. So, of course, it will come up with some redundancies because you are changing your operating model. And you are looking at different locations. You are looking at your location strategy, how you hire people going forward, what skills you need, what skills are redundant now. And maybe some of those skills will shift to the low-cost locations, and we will use new skill talents. They are more in high-cost locations, so you need to find the balance. So it led us to some redundancies, right. Definitely, but it was all business strategy. Yeah,
so a few redundancies, but thinking forward about how you can reuse people in different ways. And I think that's what's necessity is the mother of invention, isn't it? And I haven't really invented this because it's always been their talent management, hiring for potential. But it took on a whole new emphasis in the last year or so, hasn't it? As people couldn't recruit what they were looking for, so they were looking for transferable skills, hiring for potential. And I think that's now becoming a bit more business as usual now. Actually, it's really good because they'll stay longer, there'll be loyalty. They can see they're on a career progression with us. They don't need to leave to get their next promotion or their next development. They can stay. And certainly at Nurture, we're doing the same. Even with our, horticulturists, they want to move on to management and site management. There are opportunities within the Nurture Academy to to grow their potential, as well as the management teams.
And I know this session is titled around pay and reward, but I think we're trying to shift the focus away from pay and reward and have our people, realise a future and to be challenged and stretched. Because we just see, like you will probably do, that if you're going to go and hire those skills from the external market, you're going to pay a lot of money for that. And if we can keep moving our people through the organisation, they can see that year-over-year progression. They feel stretched. It takes the discussion away from pay, I think.
Yeah, and I think it's fascinating because back in the day, when you think about the 60s and 70s, people felt they had a job for life, and actually it might have been that job for life. Now you've probably got a company for life, or potentially for a significant part of your career, but it's not staying in that job, it's staying with the company and having a career through it, looking to see what the opportunities are for you to develop personally. And so let's talk about pay then, because the theme is, are we rethinking pay? And I think we are rethinking pay, aren't we? It's not just paying. We've always had this wider concept that people come to work not just for the money, but for other things. But I think it's taken on a whole new importance, certainly in the last year and going forward. It's more than pay, because actually pay doesn't make you stay there. It's a whole different proposition. So do you want to talk a little bit more about rethinking pay and variable pay?
Yeah, there's probably two answers to that. I think the first one is trying to take the discussion away from pay and think about a broader employee value proposition. And then the second one is just ways that we can help people make their pay go further. So the first one is interesting because we're a little bit unique at Fiserv. We are all about getting people back to the office. And we're an American-owned company, and that seems to be the direction of travel for a number of fintechs. So we are asking our people to be in the office 4 days a week, which is challenging and different to a lot of others. But we're trying to reimagine our value proposition to put in place things that support our employees and getting them back to the office. And there's a number of benefit providers outside that nicely align with that model. We're trying to sort of cater to the moments that matter and say, look, we know we ask you to be in the office a lot. That's because we believe in collaboration and teamwork. So trying to take the discussion away from we want you in the office 4 days a week to we put in place a package of benefits that really support you and shows how much we value you because we want to have you in the office and to work and collaborate. The second part of the answer is actually around pay, and I think we're a little bit limited. We haven't got deep pockets, and so we're trying to manage cost. A couple of things that we are doing is for our sales population, we're trying to sort of tip the balance over to put more of their compensation into variable pay or commission so they can impact their own reward and they can share in the success of the company. So we've got big growth aspirations. As I said, we've been continuing to grow for the last 37 years. And if they can help drive that and are incentivized to do that, then we're happy to give them rewards to match that. The other thing that we're lucky to be able to do is to offer equity. And again, with that double-digit earnings per share growth and company growth over the years, offering equity throughout the organisation pretty much is a really valuable tool for us. And although it does defer that compensation, there's real value. And again, with a large group of employees that have long tenure with us, they've really enjoyed and benefited from that. And I was thinking about it on the way in, thinking, well, what about smaller companies or companies that can't offer equity? And I think there's always some creative things you can do to create sort of phantom stock plans or to tie reward to organisational success and get people with a bit of skin in the game.
And so in terms of equity, because that's my background, the legal career I've had is to put in global plans for all sorts of companies. And, it can be really impactful and actually life-changing. Great for the company because it motivates employees, but great for employees that it's life-changing with the amounts of value they can get. Do all your employees participate? Is it like a free plan, or do they have to buy at a discount perhaps to get shares?
There's two things. We have quite low incentive eligibility, so incentive eligibility starts at a very low grade, and our annual bonus plan is delivered as part stock, part cash. Right. it was a little bit challenging in the beginning because, again, people wanted to have the money for the weekend.
Yeah.
But over time, we've shown that there is real value there. So that's the first way that they get ownership in a company through restricted stock units. And the second one is our employee stock purchase plan. So we offer that in our major locations in Europe. And we offer a 5% discount. So it's not a massive discount, but we're getting to a much better place around data and analytics now. And if we look at all the people that have participated in our ESPP program over the past 18 months, the return on their investment is about 23%. And so, they can't get that in a high interest rate account. So it's, when you can sort of use some of those stats and play that back to potential future hires, I think it really catches their eye.
Yeah, I mean, when we think about rethinking pay, the equity has been there for a while, but it's actually making sure people are aware of it and the value of it, that it's all part of the deal of working for Fiserv.
And we also offer quite a bit of flexibility around it because we appreciate that someone might sign up to the plan. We do it on a quarterly basis, but things change.
Yeah.
And so we said if you have opted in but then realise that you can't, we allow them to come out of the plan and we refund them that. Right. So a lot of flexibility that helps, I think.
Excellent. And what are you doing in terms of rethinking pay and use of equity?
Yeah, so as I said, the first thing we are rethinking is about these different employment models, how we are going to shift our reward structures and how we are going to make them flexible and transparent going forward, because flexibility is a huge issue. We have a very young population. Our average age is around 36. So everybody wants something fancy, and you can't provide everything to everyone. So basically more we are thinking about how we can be flexible, how we can give employee the power so they can actually build their own reward structures and elements going forward. So that's a vision right now we are working on and thinking through. And in terms of it's not only about pay, as you mentioned. We are also doing a lot about storytelling within the organization about our culture and where our business is going, right? So all of our employees out there in the market, they hear what's happening, they see what's happening in the business, and we want to sustain our business through those actions. So we are mainly working on how we are going to tell this story to our employees so we keep them engaged and motivated going forward. So reward is a big part of it, reward team, together with corporate communications, talent teams, talent acquisition teams. So that's a cross-functional effort we are doing right now. And regarding incentives and bonuses, because we are changing our operating models, our business strategy, we expect different behaviors, different ways of working. So we have reviewed all of our incentive structures to really create that culture and make sure employees are understanding what they are supposed to deliver going forward, because it's really important. If your bonus programs doesn't serve your business strategy, it just doesn't. It's a waste money, right, for everyone. And the other thing is about business critical skills. Basically, we have done a lot of work about our strategic workforce plan and what skills are critical going forward to our business and how we are going to attract them, retain them, engage them. So it's about where we are spending our money on going forward. So, we have tight budgets. Everybody has tight budgets right now. So where are we going to spend it and how we are going to make it work? And this is another thing we are working on. Strategic workforce planning was a really important part of it. Which skills we are looking at the market, which ones we can find easy geographically, which ones we can't really find, and how we are going to take action about it going forward. So we have some kind of market competitiveness model that we are doing right now periodically, so we can keep an eye on the market. If we have gap, we just take proactive action. So we don't wait someone to shout out you don't pay me enough, or I'm leaving, kind of thing. And incentives, yes, we have performance bonuses, but also it's really important in game business that we have a game pipeline, because games have a life cycle. They grow and they die. So basically, you need a game pipeline. So one of the actions we have taken, okay, these performance bonus pod, if we take it and use it differently going forward. So our new game development teams have a process to publish a game. So each gate milestone, we spend that money to reward those people like instantly. You pass the milestone gate, here is your reward, basically. So we have taken them out of the traditional performance bonus, but it's more like ongoing rewarding. So we really encourage people to strengthen our pipeline going forward, because if you don't have pipeline, you don't have business. And regarding equity, so 2 years ago, it was only for executives, basically, but after this strategic workforce planning, location strategy work that we have done with the corporate strategy teams, we have deployed it deep in the organization, again, looking at our business critical skills. If those roles are really critical for us, we will do everything to retain and attract those people, basically. So we have started really aggressive equity allocation for those roles, like product people, basically technology people. We have to retain them because we are investing in them a lot. And we also have employee share purchase plan. So we are distributing our parent company's shares, and they are based in Australia. It's a completely different market for equity because it's really highly regulated comparing to US and European countries, right? So shareholders have a binding say on remuneration reports, which means if they say no 2 consecutive years, board has to step down. So it was a very difficult 2 years for me to really deploy it around the organization, convince the parent company and the board that this is what we need, because we know 75% of high-tech companies provide equity almost all of their employees, right? So you need to provide something to attract that talent. So we were successful, and then the second one we launched was employee share purchasing plan. So basically, we provide a discount, but what we do differently is if you opt in a share purchasing plan, if you buy 1 share and stay in the company 2 years, we give you 2 additional shares for free. So that's a game-changing, that was the game-changing thing for us. And, we have, Aristocrat, our parent company has 7,500 employees, and our participation rate is like 26% right now across the board.
And so that's for your wide employee plan, 26% in the stock purchase plan, but you've got targeted equity awards for some of your key talent. Now, one of the questions that came up this morning was pay equity, and we had a session on transparency.
Yeah.
So I'm really curious, how do you deal with pay equity? A global organization, you've got digital nomads, you've got very flexible recruitment or appointment arrangements. How does pay equity work, and do you have transparency?
Yeah, good question. Pay equity is a huge issue when you have employees and these contingent workers all together, right? Because you have legal restrictions, you have privacy restrictions. Every country has different laws around those ones, and tax issues are different. And so we basically developed, this is operational, but some calculators around how we are going to balance these pay between employees and contingent workers, and we make sure we are competent in the market, right? So we basically provided those calculators for the service of TA teams, hiring managers, everyone, so they understand if I hire a contingent worker in this country, this is my cost and this is what I'm supposed to do, and if I hire an employee, this is my cost and what I'm supposed to do. So they can make strategic decisions, basically based on the data. And, gender and diversity is a big issue. So, of course, every company, we are publishing with our own methodology, basically globally, what we are doing, and also local regulations and everything. Transparency is a huge priority topic for us for the next 3 years, basically. So we have, but, as in the previous session, to be able to transparent, you really need to go back to your fundamentals, right? You need to make sure how you make those decisions, how transparent you can be, or what is it you need to do to be transparent about your pay decisions going forward. So you need really good, robust structure for that one. So we started with our job architecture this year because we are also changing our operating model. We were like, okay, we need to look at the fundamentals. Let's start from the job architecture. And now the next project we just started is like looking at our reward structures overall, not only pay, but everything we provide and how we are gonna shift it and make flexible going forward. So this is the next big thing for my team in the next 3 years.
Right. Very interesting to hear that. Now, we've got some really great questions coming in, which are what we've been talking about, but drilling down a bit further. So I'm going to ask Dan and Yasemin some of these questions that are coming in. So if there's any more, please do put them up. Working from home and working from the office. So this is a very hot topic. Yeah. Do you feel you are losing the future talent by mandating work from the office?
It's challenging. I think I've used that word far too much in the past 20 minutes. It is challenging. But we're thriving. So we're doing well. We're getting by. Again, it's a great culture. People that do well at Fiserv stick around. We've got a growing internal analyst program for early careers, and we are filling those roles. And I think there are a group of people that actually want to feel part of something and are interested in learning more and are sort of attracted to a global company like ours. And they are willing to be in the office more than not. But being very honest, compared to other companies who are opening up their talent pool because they can hire from anywhere, it can be a bit frustrating. Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about that before, weren't we? Hire from anywhere, because you do, don't you? So do you want to talk about, do you mandate your people coming into the office, or your employees, but your digital nomads, contingent workers can do other things?
So it's a swing ground for us, basically. So until last year, we said we are totally flexible, all flex policy. And then a time came and the senior management, including our parent company senior management, they said, okay, we need people back. Yeah. And then it was 3 to 4 months data analytics for my team and huge conversations with board, the management teams and everything. And then they ended up, okay, if you are in the vicinity of 1 hour in any office, we expect you to be in the office at least 2 days. Oh, great. So, and we started labeled people in our HRIS system. Okay, this person is 1 hour vicinity, this is an office worker, this is remote worker kind of thing. And it's been 1 year. I think now we are realizing, okay, we are a global company. We have our parent company in Australia. We are competing with all time zones. For example, for me, because my manager is in Australia, it's not possible that I commit 2 days in the office because I have 5 a.m. meetings and then 12 midnight meetings, etc. It's not possible for me physically and, as a human to go to office. So I think now we are flexible, back to flexibility again, because so it is not formal, but people are just being flexible. Some people love being in the office 3 days. Some of my peers, they want to be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. They feel it more productive and better, etc. For me, 1 day, I just go 4 hours, have all my UK-based one-to-ones in the office, face-to-face, and just move out for my evening or late night meetings. And that's fine. Nobody tells me that, oh, you just stayed 3 hours today, because I was working, basically, and I will continue. So I think it's a very swaying ground, right? Yeah. So.
And I think that's what's going to happen going forward. You've got a fantastic proposition. People are going to make 23% on their stock. They're going to learn a lot, get developed, and at the moment, you're in the driving seat. But if other organisations start offering good or better and ability to go and work from Denver and ski in the afternoon, etc., and then work in the evenings, agile working, then it could become competitive again or more of an issue. I know when I was at Linklater, so I was a partner there for 20 years, I introduced agile working back in the early 90s because I didn't want to lose my top talent. And my team became the best practice in the country, bar none. It was rated #1 in a category of its own in both Legal 500 and Chambers, and my secret sauce was agile working, allowing people to work from anywhere. And it was before the internet. We had faxes and couriers. And just imagine what the internet did. So I had people in my team working from Australia, from New Zealand, from Spain, working from Cambridge, working from, to meet their men and women, by the way, men and women. But the secret sauce was I wanted the best people, and I was prepared for them to work 3 days a week in the office, or 3 days at home, 4 short days at home, agile hours, 20 hours a week, or whatever it was, because I'd rather have the best people doing the best jobs.
Yeah.
Than actually saying come to the office 5 days a week. Yes, got a question over there.
Is it okay to take questions?
Yeah, sure. Please do.
So building on this and as a follow-up, the future workforce might actually want to be treated as adults, where as long as you deliver the results, who cares if you're working 9 to 5 from Denver, from Australia? So are you seeing the shift actually, or the reimagination being more in culture and accountability rather than pay and reward?
Well, I think Dan's going to say they've got to be in the office. So
It's not me. It's not, I'm not saying.
Maybe I can respond to that because I have experienced it really recently. I think it is more. I agree with culture of the company and how your managers behave, right? So you need to create this behavior codes in your organization and how your managers manage their workforce, basically. So for me, for example, personally, as a manager, I tell my team, if you don't feel 100% today, please don't work. I don't need a 50%. I need 100%, right? So it doesn't make sense to me having you 50% here, struggling to work, trying to deliver something. I don't want it. When you feel 100%, come back and do the job. So personally, this is how I manage my team, right? I agree with you. It is more about accepting these people we hired. They are adults. They are grown-ups, and they know their responsibilities. I think it's the main thing.
And I think what COVID showed us, we can work from home and be productive. And we've got the technology, and we have got Zoom and Teams, etc., so that we can see people, which has really transformed that remote working. But what we haven't changed is our current management. And our current management was brought up before COVID. And I think I was talking to the wonderful business thinker, Margaret Heffernan, a couple of weeks ago, and she's been working with a number of companies where this is exactly the issue. They've got a very enthusiastic, ambitious 30-somethings who want to change the world, change the company, charge forward. But they've got a very senior management that want to go back to what we were doing before. And I think
that's where we're at.
And I think that's going to be your challenge, where you've got leadership saying, no, we've got to get back to where we were doing, and you've got very ambitious, capable people who have worked out how to work with AI, how to work with all this digital technology, how to work remotely and connect and collaborate. You don't have to be physically present. And so I think we'll go through that other transition until these 30-somethings start getting those leadership roles and go, actually, as long as they haven't changed in the process, that will go, actually, I'm here now, we can do it.
I think it's extremely well said. I think you're bang on. I think it's more about accountability and people understanding what they've got to deliver and then tying the reward back to it. So how can they impact their own pay? How can they progress through an organisation and year over year show an increase? Or how could, at FISA, we're very much about pay for performance and meritocracy. So we give people the opportunity to impact their own reward for delivering above expectation. And I think if you can make that culture real and have some real life case studies where people are feeling that investment in them, then you're off to a good start.
So there's been a really great question on here about when people are struggling with the cost of living issues, how can we change their mindset that we can't pay them anymore, but let's focus on your career development? Have you come across that at all? I mean, it probably...
Getting all the difficult questions. Yeah, a number of our competitors at the time, when inflation went, off the charts, I think did a bit of a knee-jerk reaction and said, like, the cost of living allowance, or we're going to implement more regular pay reviews. Whether rightly or wrongly, we didn't. We kind of sat back and took a pause. But at the same time, we're really working through our data to say, where do we have issues around pay equity? Where do we have issues where people look low versus market? Where do we have issues where people have taken on the next step in their career and felt good about it, but then they've quickly lost pace with the market? So we did a lot of ad hoc review work over the past 3 years to address pay. But it is difficult because everyone's feeling the pinch. And we're focusing on financial well-being, salary sacrifice benefits, even down to things like negotiating discounts with local providers. Going around the corner and talking to restaurants, and they're open to it. So anything that really just helps people make their pay go a little bit further is a good start, I think.
Yeah, Yasemin, have you had that issue?
Yeah. So, there are two parts of it, right? One of them is like about the career paths, how we develop people internally, which reward team has nothing to do in reality and ideally. So basically, I get these kind of questions through the HR business partners, like, oh, this employee is complaining, so what we are going to do about it? And I start this counseling conversation with the business partners, like, okay, what is the performance of this employee? What do you think? Did you talk to manager? Kind of, more training our business partners and managers and taking them through the, that adventure, basically, because they are like, oh, I will never make this person a manager. I'm like, oh, did you give that feedback to your employee, actually? Oh, how do you know how to do it? If you don't know, let's talk with the learning and development team how we can support you, like coaching on these difficult conversations. So what I did last year differently, so just before our annual REM review, so together working with learning development team, we have created a compensation philosophy. What is our compensation philosophy? How we make this happen? Why we are making these decisions through these processes? And we gave this training together with learning and development, experts, and they helped us how to tell that story, how to create our narrative so managers understand. So we have done it for all people managers, and last year was still wobbly, but this year it was just all smooth, and plus we have embedded the managing difficult conversations with your employees, not only about pay, in general, how you should make these difficult conversations with them, including performance ratings, etc. So it helped a lot. This year, it was so smooth. I didn't hear anything big. Of course, little dramas every time.
And actually, I think, again, necessity being the mother of invention, over the last year, any organisation that could has looked to get better bang for their buck, whatever that is, whether it's improving their pension provision, whether that's looking for discounted schemes, either locally or putting a platform in place and communicating it, just to help that money go a bit further. But yes, I think it's been a difficult time, and just supporting employees as best we can. Now, we've got a couple of minutes left, that's all. So very briefly, horizon gazing. Next 2 or 3 years, what's the key thing that you think you'll be working on?
Pay equity. We've done loads of work around gender pay gap, and we're writing out to our people and encouraging them to give us more diversity data. We want to look at diversity pay gap, diversity benefits gap. The other big thing we're doing is really delving into the data. One of the guys from Mercer earlier said, without data, you're operating in the dark. We're starting to get into, I say starting, it's a very early step, but predictive analytics. So we're looking at exit interviews and stay interviews and getting likelihood to recommend Fiserv as a great place to work from that. Looking at our attrition data and saying which groups leave us more often than not, tying it to engagement survey data and saying, person by person, can we look at the risk of someone leaving us, and then start to ascertain, well, what are the levers that are going to stop that? Because I think what we typically see is someone's going to leave or they've got another offer, we need to pay them more. Compensation is always the first lever, and at times we'll say, okay, we'll counter or we'll put something in place. But then I say, you better have something ready for 6 months or 12 months' time, because that problem's going to come back. We need to think broader, and we're starting to get into that analytics piece where we can understand, is compensation the answer or not? And we're starting to see that it's probably not.
Yeah, interesting. Very briefly, what's on your horizon, 2 years?
Transparency and flexibility, definitely. Going forward, and the systems, we have like millions of different systems, employees see their different reward elements, like how we can make it just one platform, instant reward statement, not annual, like today, what is the value this company is creating for me as of now, and that's the vision for 3 years.
And I think for me, certainly at Nurture, it's putting in a whole new infrastructure to get the data, to get a whole system that we can analyse, that we've got pay equity, and we can see where we need to focus effort. And at the RNLI, again, we're putting a whole lot of effort into more information of both the volunteers and the staff. Data is key. And now we've got the technology. It's there for us. Now, I think we're absolutely at time. I want to thank you very much for joining us today. If you've got any further questions, I know we're around here for the coffee break. Please do come and ask us. And again, thank you for joining us today, and enjoy the rest of the conference.